We are just 2 days into the OFC World Cup qualifiers here in Doha, where I am. But it's already looking like a competition that could be plagued by COVID. Despite the fact that there have been some very entertaining games so far, we honestly don't know how this one is going to unfold. But I am here catching up again with Ryan. How are you, my friend?
Mate, I'm good. It's good to speak to you, man. You've been in Doha for the last 3 days and doing all sorts of amazingly cool stuff. So, mate, I'm well. I guess, mate, more importantly, I'm just here. I'm just here, living my very normal existence. You are currently in Doha living a whirlwind football media life. How's it all going?
It's going all right. It's going all right, actually. It's going okay. Yeah, it was the first day, the first full day I was here. It was just a crazy day, really, because I'd arrived at like 1 o'clock in the morning Qatar time, which was fine for me because that's like 10 o'clock UK time. But obviously, I had just got off the plane, so I wasn't feeling tip top because it's a good 6.5 hour flight. And then I had to get up early to do like media press stuff here, there, and everywhere. Still trying to find kind of my bearings. Doha's not the biggest place, but it's still, it's just a bit of a whirlwind day. And then there was the game in the evening, the inaugural match between the Cook Islands and the Solomon Islands, which the Solomons won 2-0. Then all of a sudden I'm whisked off to the post-match press conference. A first-time experience for me.
Amazing.
And then the second game's cancelled because of COVID, and then I'm back at the hotel, and it's like, I think when I got to the end of the first full day that I was here on the 17th, I was kind of, when the head hit the pillow, it was like, what is life?
But just a whirlwind kind of day, mate. But so we were saying this before you went out there, though, mate. It's kind of this genuinely once in a lifetime opportunity, and kind of what you're doing now is it's amazing. I'm so jealous. I was gonna say. I would, if I didn't have kind of commitments at home and work stuff going, I'd have absolutely been joining you out there and being right involved in I guess the kind of the chaotic experience that you're. Well, maybe not chaotic, but a little bit kind of a frantic and a bit. It's uncertain, isn't it? A little bit of a whirlwind.
I would say it is frantic. I think that the uncertainty is what makes it frantic. It's not constant. Today there's no games. On the day that we're filming this, there's no games. So. It should be just a kind of chill day, but as we've already spoken about, I'm at the hotel just laying by the pool today, and then there's the announcements about Vanuatu, of course, now withdrawing themselves from the competition. They couldn't play their first game because of up to 22 positive COVID cases in the team, so basically the whole squad. So they couldn't play against Tahiti. And then... It's with the tightly packed schedule, the group stage finishes in less than a week, finishes on the 24th. So there was really no chance they were going to be able to play any of their games, and it gets to the point of who's it unfair on more, because they can't just play their third game, they can't play their second and third games really, because how do you treat the Tahiti game, which really for that group is a 6-pointer? So they've decided to withdraw. The COVID cases are still there today, which is why they've withdrawn. The situation hasn't changed. They were due to play their second game tomorrow against the Solomon Islands, but they have now withdrawn, which is a real shame. But they're going to have to finish their quarantine at the hotel, and then without kicking a ball, they're all going to have to go home.
Yeah, how bad? Well, that just sucks, doesn't it? Yeah. They've literally come all the way over there to have that pre-tournament friendly against Fiji. Mm-hmm. Everyone's ended up with COVID, and they're gonna have to go. So it's how do you want to kind of structure this catch up then? Should we talk? Let's talk about kind of that kind of situation at the moment, and then maybe we'll touch on the games and stuff, and then I'll ask you a few questions about how it's all been and like the experience so far and everything. But it's kind of a shame that we have to talk about COVID, isn't it? I'd much rather log on to this call and just talk about the experience and the games and the players, and which we'll do, as we said. But the impact of COVID, it's caused issues for this region's qualification throughout the entirety of the build-up to this 2022 World Cup, isn't it? How it couldn't be hosted in the Oceania region because of COVID, and they've gone here and it's playing havoc again. You've spoken about Vanuatu, and there's some question marks over the Cook Islands as well. You messaged me earlier.
Yeah, so I think the Cook Islands official page has stated, although I've not had any official confirmation from the OFC, that the Cook Islands have also now got COVID. So they will have to... as long as they've got 14 players who are negative, they can fulfil the game, but I don't think that they do. They have one of the smallest squads, so I don't know if it's a full squad situation like Vanuatu. But it looks like they won't be able to play their match against Tahiti either. And again, they won't be able to play their last game. Not that they would have a last game anyway, because that was due to be against Vanuatu. But I think that the challenge for this one, which is different from the challenge with Vanuatu, is from the OFC perspective, they can just send Vanuatu home. They said to the VFF, the Vanuatu Football Federation, what do you want to do? And they've decided that they are going to go home because it's the right thing to do. But the Cook Islands have played a game. They did play 2 days ago against the Solomon Islands. Have they passed on some of that COVID-19 infection to the Solomon Islands? It could be... there could be a situation where they have, and then the only team that progress out of Group A, I'm not sure how they do it, would be Tahiti without kicking a ball, potentially. Tahiti might not play a single game and might get through, but how do you work that situation? If the Solomon Islands are negative, I think my sort of approach would be, if the Cook Islands, if they have to go home as well, then you've got 2 teams through the group straight away. That's Solomons and Tahiti. I don't think they should bother playing each other for first and second. I think that you should just give first to the Solomon Islands, second to Tahiti, because the semi-final isn't until the 27th. So if either of them pick up COVID in the next few days, they should still be okay for that game. They should recover in that time. But it's really difficult. And then, you ask the question of how widespread this is with COVID across the camp. Not all the teams are staying at the same hotel, but it only has to be a couple of cases, and then of course it will spread. And the other thing that I was speaking to some people from the OFC about is actually something that we don't even consider being from the UK, but actually the vaccination rates in Oceania are just very poor, particularly from these island nations. So that kind of changes the perspective of how you're going to treat this COVID thing. I'm out here, I'm triple jabbed, and to get in I had to do a PCR which came back negative, and lateral flow regularly. We're well accustomed to it in the UK, but I think a lot of the people, particularly from the islands, aren't vaccinated, so that's something you do have to treat slightly differently. How they're going to get around it, I don't know. I'm kind of awaiting contact. It's been a little bit radio silence today, as you'd probably expect, as they look to sort things out. I think the key question now is, has it got to the Solomon Islands? That's probably the key question. How widespread is it in Group A, and kind of what's the plan of action going forward? I was at breakfast this morning when I think the news broke at the Cook Islands. It might have been the Vanuatu news, but I'm not sure. I saw some OFC people sat at a distance across from me, and I saw someone come over from OFC and speak to them, and then I just saw heads drop. And I thought, as I sat there, I was like, that might be COVID. That might be COVID related. It's terrible. It's terrible how it's scuppered this tournament. But also, what's interesting,
absolute nightmare.
What about the World Cup this year? What are they going to do about that? There will be COVID cases. At what point does the rest of the world kind of get to the state that the UK is now, where it's fine? We don't even track it really anymore. So
no. It's a shame. It is a shame, and it's, as I said at the start, you almost don't want to have to talk about it, but because it's going to be such a, it's going to play such a part in this tournament. We have to touch on it, don't we? And kind of open with it, as at the time of recording, that's the kind of the biggest noise coming out of this tournament. But so I guess we just wait and see about all of that, don't we? We just wait and see. Let's not try and let that detract from kind of what's happened so far, which is, you've got all the amazing Oceania teams out in Doha. You're out there yourself. You're in the stadiums watching these games, and kind of take everything COVID out of it. What an amazing thing that is happening. The games so far have been great. Give us some thoughts on just like the games so far, and you've been at them all.
All the games so far, yes, been at the games so far. So on Matchday 1, of course, it was just the Cook Islands versus the Solomon Islands, and I was actually very impressed with the Cook Islands. Yes, it was backs to the walls. It was a little bit park the bus. They didn't pose any real threat. It was 4-5-1, everyone behind the ball. But what do you expect? What do you expect?
Yeah.
You know,
We
yeah, go on.
No, I was going to say, we spoke, didn't we, in our preview about how the manager, it was like the first time that he was meeting a lot of the players as well, which was quite funny, wasn't it? But yeah, a nation that's not played together for however long, it's almost a sense of a mismatch of players are coming together, forming a squad and have to compete in a World Cup qualification campaign. So a defensive mindset, considering they are an unranked nation anyway, it was always going to be expected, wasn't it? And only a 2-0 defeat, they did themselves proud in the second half, I thought.
Well, you look back at some OFC games in the past, and teams like the Cook Islands get beat like 10-0. You know, you don't have to go back that far to see like 8-0, 10-0 defeats to sides like Solomon Islands. So yeah, it was. I mean, the Solomon Islands, they won, so I think the players were okay with it, but the manager wasn't happy after the game.
No, you were in the press conference.
I was in the press conference, and
amazing.
He was unhappy with the tactics of the Cook Islands, which I get, because the Cook Islands will walk away from 2-0 pretty happy. I spoke to the Cook Islands after the game as well, the captain Ben Matter and the head coach Alan Taylor, and you know, pretty much the outcome was like we could do a little bit more going forward, but generally it was fine. You know, and I even overheard Ben Matter say to the manager before they came into the press conference, that side are ranked 2 in OFC. You know, Solomon Islands behind New Zealand only, and you just look at it and you go, totally the right mindset. You know, unfortunately, it could be the only game that the Cook Islands play, but they did themselves proud. The players did themselves proud, and an incredible venue. You know, the stadiums that these guys are playing on, it's not like some of the pitches that they'll have back in Oceania. Both the stadiums that have been used for this tournament are incredible. There is no VAR in the group stages, but there are in the finals.
Oh, interesting.
So I thought there were to be in the group stages, but I think they've changed that now. So in the semi-final and the final, I believe there is then VAR. That's what I've heard. But certainly some good players for the Solomon Islands. Atkin Cow was particularly good, and Mika Leia Alafa as well. But probably a player we've not heard too much about, the defensive midfielder, number 22, William Kamasi, was a bit of a midfield general in there. He was a very, very good player, and I think that who knows what's going to happen with Group A and the rest of this competition, but he will be very, very important for them going forward. But we'll wait and see what happens in Group A. But Group B is where we then had the double header. Between the sides. I've got all the team sheets here with me.
Mate, you have to keep them. You have to keep them and bring them back as a little thing of this trip for sure. You should try and get some of them signed, maybe. If you get a chance.
Well, I thought about that. If we go on, I'm going to try and get a signature or two in the post-match press conferences. Definitely do. Yeah, the first game in that was PNG New Zealand. PNG New Zealand, and what a game! PNG were fantastic.
Mate, they were close. They were close. I mean,
did you see it? Did you catch it?
Yeah, I didn't catch it live, but I've watched more than enough highlights. I watched 11 minutes of highlights on it after the game, because I'd seen so much on Twitter, and we'd been messaging as well about the chances missed by New Zealand and the goalkeeping from Warasan in goal. So I was like, I've got to see this, and it was incredible. And they just came unstuck with. Was it a quick free kick? Because the highlights that I watched, it kind of cut a quick free kick squared across Ben Waine with the goal 15 minutes from time.
Yeah, well, this is the kind of discussion point. The post-match press conference was with Marcos, the manager, Marcos Guzmao, and also Alwyn Comalong as well was in the post-match press conference. So I got to say hi to Alwyn.
Good old Alwyn. How is he?
Well, he
had a good game at centre half.
He had a brilliant game. He was absolutely fantastic. He was captain as well after Muta came off with an injury. Him and Felix at centre back were brilliant. They were genuinely brilliant. Only undone by a quick free kick, but it's an interesting one. I saw the free kick given. I haven't seen it back whether it was a foul or not. It looked like a pretty.
Well, it was harsh.
I thought it was harsh. It looked like a good challenge to me from Alwyn. I then looked down, and I was making notes on what was happening. 75 minutes in the game, I didn't hear a whistle go, and I looked up, and the New Zealand team were celebrating. The New Zealand press were alongside me, obviously at a social distance, thankfully, and they also didn't see it. Alwyn was furious with the decision. What we've heard from him, obviously it's a biased opinion from Alwyn, who plays for PNG.
The PNG captain.
The PNG captain said that the spray was marked for where the free kick was going to take place, and the wall was being walked back at the time that New Zealand then played it across goal and kicked it into an effectively empty net. And Alwyn was asking questions about what the rules are. What are the rules in that circumstance? He sprayed the line. Can a quick free kick be taken when he's walking the wall back, should I say? Because that's 4 players that can't then do anything.
Yeah.
So, listen, from a New Zealand point of view, you have to say it's an intelligent move, because if you don't get away with it, you still have a free kick. And it's worth a go. And congratulations to Ben Waine, because that was his debut. And he did score as just a young guy. But generally, the takeaways from this game for me were... I mean, Warazan was absolutely incredible. You've seen the saves. He was unbelievable. In the first half, he made a great double save when a cross came in, a low ball. And then in the second half, I mean, New Zealand deserved to win, because in the last 10 minutes, they hit the crossbar twice, and Warazan made a world-class save, which I had a great view of. I have to say, New Zealand didn't massively impress me, but one player that is just ridiculous is Winston Reid.
Really? Just Rolls Royce.
Did he get even into second gear? I'm not sure.
Really?
He was up against a number of players, primarily Gunemba, who's not a bad striker, good on the ball. He was unfazed. He won the ball every single time. He was strolling around. He just looked like a general. And the OFC guy turned to me at one point, because he knows obviously I'm a West Ham fan. He just said, "Reedy's still got it." And I was like, he was not. He was
playing for Brentford last season. At the end of last season, he was playing for Brentford in the Championship, and had appearances. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a guy that was. Good. Yeah, he's just
we've spoken before, though, haven't we, about actually if you are one of these teams, and New Zealand aren't necessarily a minnow, but they are still one of the smaller sides that have qualified for the World Cup. If you are a team like this, it is better to have a world-class centre-back than it is a world-class striker.
Yeah.
And I think that's
100%.
sort of been showed, because Papua New Guinea and potentially no other team in this tournament are going to score against New Zealand, because Reid is that good.
Yeah.
And you just look at it and you just think, well... And Oliver Sale in goal didn't have to do anything. And they're not even full strength yet, New Zealand. New Zealand would be stunned if they don't win this competition. Absolutely stunned. But as we said in the kind of tournament preview that we did, and I actually did say, I think if any side's going to beat New Zealand, it will be Papua against the weakened New Zealand side. And actually, then in my preview that I did just before the game, I said I think New Zealand will win, but I think it will be a low scorer. And I think I was pretty close on both counts with that one.
You've been, mate. The Tom's pre-Torno predictions are on flame so far.
They are shaping up all right. And then we had New Caledonia versus Fiji.
You messaged me during this, and you were like, "This is a mad game. This is like the maddest game so far." As in, kind of both teams going at it, hammer and tong a little bit, more end to end.
Yeah, this was the first proper even game, I'd say, between teams.
That's a really good point. Good point.
The Cook Islands parked the bus against the Solomons, and they're going to do it in any game that they can play, and rightly so. I think it was tactically completely the right call, and I fully support it. New Zealand, with a full strength squad, it would have probably been more comfortable. But again, it was can PNG hit them on the counter? And PNG tactically were brilliant, and I think that they could, with Alwyn and Felix, it could be tough for New Cal and Fiji against PNG, but. This was the first game of two sides, because we missed, Tahiti, Vanuatu. This was the first game of two sides that it was like, this is a 6-pointer. If you win this game, you could knock the other team out, because they are must-wins. I was surprised by the New Caledonia lineup to go into... I don't know much about these players, but they played a few players who are based in France and play in the lower leagues of the French division, but obviously can play for New Caledonia. And you know what? They weren't Pacific enough.
Fiji
Fiji aren't the most technically gifted side. They have a few players that are really, really skillful. They had Hughes, Sitareki Hughes.
Yes,
on one
yeah,
wing,
we like him. We like him.
And
He's rapid, isn't he?
yes, and very good on the ball. And then Ashnil Raju on the other wing as well. The two wingers, very good. The other players are not very technically gifted. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but they're not. But they are physically unbeatable. Unbeatable. The engine, the work rate, the speed, fantastic. And like the striker, Morgan Matalon, he just didn't impose himself on the game. The two centre-backs just dealt with him so easily, really. Certainly in the first half, the half dominated by Fiji. And I just thought, Bertrand Kai's on the bench. I know the guy's 38 years old, but just
get him on the OFC.
Him on the pitch. He's
get
OFC
him on
legend.
the pitch. Get that legend. Get that goal-scoring legend on the pitch, mate.
And
was Iola playing?
He wasn't in the matchday squad. I don't know why he wasn't in the matchday squad.
Could have COVID.
Who knows? I don't believe he does, but he wasn't in the matchday squad.
Beroun was captain. Yeah, I looked through and there was less names I was familiar with when I saw the 11 for Newcal. But Nalabu with two for Fiji, an opener pouncing on some shoddy defending a little bit, an equaliser from Newcal. You said at the time it was deserved, and then lovely header to win it, mate. Nalabu again. What a header that was.
If I'm honest, based on the balance of play, it should have finished New Caledonia 2, Fiji 1.
Really?
New Caledonia, in the first half, it was 55-45 to Fiji, I'd say. And they had a deserved lead, and Nalabu was a menace all half.
Yeah.
And that's what Fiji had that New Caledonia didn't. If New Cal attacked and Fiji won the ball, they knew they could just lump it to Nalabu, because he will run, and he's very fast, all day.
Yeah.
All day he will hunt the ball. The second half, New Caledonia dominated. It was 70-30 that half.
Really? So did they change things at half time then?
You know what? No, there were no immediate changes, but they just actually started playing football.
Right, yes.
When they brought on Richard Selle at right midfield or right wing, he was really, really good. He got on the ball and actually attacked players, and you see the goal, the assist that he got.
It's lovely, lovely ball.
It was a stunning ball, and they continued to press and continue to dominate. But when you've got someone physically like Nalabu, and you've also got someone technically like Roy Krishna, who had only arrived, the day before, had only met up with the team the lunchtime before. When you've got those two, you are going to be a threat. They win the free kick. It's a stunning delivery and an even better header. And the stadium absolutely erupted. It was incredible scenes because they knew that this was a must-win game. A must-win game.
Huge.
And the manager actually said, Fleming, who of course used to be the PNG manager, he actually said after the game, in the post-match press conference, he said, we didn't play our best and we probably didn't deserve to win that.
No.
And he was honest about it. He's a very good coach. I spoke to him. I asked about how they would set up differently for the New Zealand game. They've said they're going to play exactly the same football. They just want to play better. So probably won't see them park the bus. But they've got a licence to attack New Zealand now because they've got 3 points.
They've won the game.
Yeah, they've got 3 points under their belt. And then the tactical game will probably be against PNG. Where we go from here with New Caledonia and Dominique Wakale, I'm not sure. I didn't ask the New Caledonians any questions because they had a translator because they only speak French. So whilst the OFC press struggled to get some kind of full answers out of them, the OFC guy turned to me and kind of pointed like, have you got any questions coming up? And I just went like that. And we spoke after, and I was like, I just thought I'd play it safe.
You didn't fancy your GCSE French
My
coming
GCSE
in
grade B French. No, I didn't try and whip that out.
Mate, that's class.
But that was it. That was kind of the full set of fixtures. Really, I think I've kind of run through the key players. Although there is one other player that I should probably mention for Papua New Guinea, who's really, really good. Actually, is Upayega, who played left back.
Really?
Really good on the ball. Really, really good on the ball. Cool looking guy as well. And I think that's the thing that PNG had that Newcal didn't have, and Fiji also did, was they looked oceanic. They looked, they were so fit, so physically fit. They were. Solomon Islands are a small team. They're a small island nation, but PNG and Fiji are big. They're strong. They're powerful, and they're just. they're so athletic. The technical ability is not always there. Alwyn is head and shoulders above the rest. Although Tommy Semi is, of course, technically good as well. But I think the physicality is... I think that's going to probably get Newcal maybe out of this competition. If I had to pick now, based on what I've seen from the first game, I think PNG could beat New Caledonia.
Really?
I think they could.
That's interesting. That is interesting.
But then
didn't
again,
they say,
Bertrand Kai.
No, Alwyn did say that they struggle against New Calo, didn't he? And they always bring their A game against New Zealand. So we'll have to see. Who knows, man? Who knows? It's kind of like Group B is it's kind of where the focus will kind of be now, won't it? Really, because Group A is a little bit. We've already mentioned it about the COVID. It's kind of in tatters a little bit, isn't it? And there's so many question marks about what the hell's going to happen there.
Yeah.
Group B, you've still got some really cool fixtures coming up. It's a close group. So let's see how that one goes. How have you seen, like you mentioned the stadiums earlier, and we've seen a bit on, like I've seen loads on. You've posted some cool vids on YouTube, some stuff on Insta, and like the facilities just look great from what you've shown. But like, what's the atmosphere around these games been like? There's obviously no fans, but do you get that sense of a buzz and that sense that this is like a once in a lifetime occasion for these countries and these players? Does that seem to filter through, or is it more of like kind of they're in sort of match day mode and it's a little bit less for sentimentals kind of thing?
I think that it's a mixture. I think for the older heads in particular, who have maybe done the first, maybe this is their second World Cup qualifiers. So they've done one in Oceania before. I think there is a realisation that this is something pretty special. The OFC team here, who, bless them, are working, non-stop to try and resolve the COVID issues. They know what a spectacle this is. They know how incredible this is. We're at the stadium last night. It's one of the most stunning views I've ever had. You see pictures across the socials.
Yeah, the seats, and then behind, like almost like the city skyline to a certain extent. It's just unreal, man.
It's incredible. You've been to the UAE. This is very similar in terms of it's just desert, and then all of a sudden it shoots up, and that's West Bay that you can see behind that stadium. I can actually see it from my window here. It's just out of nowhere. All of a sudden, it's skyscrapers and fancy hotels, and it's right overlooking the stadium. It's just incredible. I think that the players have done well to stay kind of grounded. I don't think that anyone has shirked the responsibility yet, I wouldn't say. I think that everyone is playing, maybe as close to their max as is possible. No one's been kind of overwhelmed yet.
Sure.
And I think that's fair enough. These aren't necessarily all going to be like they're not the massive World Cup stadiums. They are big stadiums here in Qatar. One of them might be used, but the other won't be. But they're not. It's not like, oh my goodness, there's not hundreds of thousands of people in the stadiums. The best atmosphere by far was New Caledonia versus Fiji. That was the best. The atmosphere from the benches was incredible, and I think that sort of generates the passion for these games. Really, for New Zealand, there is an element of we don't care about the scoreline, we don't care about the passion. We just have to win every game. The manager after, actually, Danny Hay, the question was asked of him, why couldn't you break them down? What went on? Why was it only 1-0? And his response, fair play to him, was pretty much along the lines of, PNG were good. I don't care that it was 1-0. We won. Which is totally the right thing. He said, I think we deserved it, but credit to PNG. They played really well. But we won 1-0. It's knockout football. We won. So, I think that there's a mixture. I think for me, it's incredible. It is, it's stunning. Firstly, to see these teams. To be in and around the guys from the OFC, who are all obviously from New Zealand. They're the only people that I regularly speak to, out loud. So sometimes I find myself going into a New Zealand lilt. It's tough not to.
Sure.
It is tough not to. It's almost an addictive accent to put on. But it's a fantastic spectacle here. Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Nice, mate. Nice. Well, I was going to say that probably sums it all up as for like a quick recap, doesn't it? There's plenty of more football. Well, we hope there's going to be plenty more football to come, and keep it DNQ to keep tabs on your adventures in Doha, basically, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just reading a statement here that's just come through in the last few moments, just confirming the withdrawal of Vanuatu. Matchday 3, which was between those two sides, obviously won't go ahead. Nothing here yet about
Cook Islands, is that? Nothing about the Cook Islands.
Nothing here yet about the Cook Islands, but what they may choose to do is rotate the fixtures.
Okay.
The Solomon Islands may play Tahiti tomorrow. This doesn't say it here, by the way. This isn't an official statement, but based on reading this, because they were due to play on Matchday 3, and I'm not sure how much of the full squad it is for the Cook Islands, they might rotate that fixture as it's cancelled anyway, and play the Solomon Islands Tahiti game first. So hopefully we will get to see plenty more football in Group A and in the rest of this tournament. But yes, you're absolutely right. D&Q is 100% the place to keep up with everything OFC. I am here in Doha, so do drop me a message. Do get into contact. Drop a comment. Drop a like on this video. Don't forget to subscribe. We hope you've enjoyed this catch up, and we will see you next time.